The city never sleeps. Neon lights flicker against the dark, and the hum of New York fills the silence. A soft piano begins, the same melody that once carried a love story into people's hearts. A voice whispers low and steady. 35 years ago, two strangers crossed paths and created a fairy tale. But what happens when the fairy tale is left unfinished? The screen cuts to black, and the title appears in glowing letters, Pretty Woman, Second Chances, asterisk. The trailer opens with the sound of footsteps echoing on a polished marble floor. A wide shot of a sleek, modern penthouse apartment towers above Manhattan. Glass walls reveal the skyline, drenched in golden dusk. Inside, Edward Lewis stands alone. His hair is silver now, his face older, wiser, but his eyes carry the same intensity. He pours a glass of scotch and looks out the window. The city stretches endlessly before him, alive, while he feels motionless, locked in time. A quiet narration drifts in. Edward had built an empire. Power, wealth, and everything a man could ever want. Except the one thing that made him feel alive. Cut to Edward sitting at a long dinner table, plates set, candles lit, but he sits alone. The flame flickers against his reflection. His butler enters, clearing dishes silently, as if this routine has played out countless times. Edward glances at a photo frame hidden near the bookshelf. For a split second, we see it. A younger Edward and Vivian, laughing in the sunshine. His gaze softens, then hardens. He puts the frame face down. The music shifts. A piano chord lingers as the screen fades to another world. Vivian's world. A bustling community center. Full of life and energy. Vivian Ward, elegant, yet approachable, greets volunteers and children with warmth. Her smile radiates kindness, but her eyes tell a quieter story. She now runs a foundation for women seeking second chances, guiding them toward independence and dignity. She speaks to a group. Life isn't about where you start. It's about where you go. Applause follows. But as she steps aside, her expression dims. Thoughtful narration continues. Vivian had found her purpose. She turned pain into strength, building a home for others who once felt lost. But even in her brightest days, a shadow lingered, a memory she could never quite silence. We see her later, alone in her office at night. Papers scattered, the sound of the city drifting through the window. She picks up an old necklace one Edward once gave her. She holds it tightly, closing her eyes. A soft sigh escapes her lips. She sets it down with care, almost afraid to break the spell of the past. The trailer cuts between Edward and Vivian's worlds. Edward in an empty boardroom, staring at contracts he no longer cares about. Vivian laughing with friends, but glancing away when a love song plays in the background. Their lives seem full on the surface, yet something is missing. The music grows stronger, violins blending with piano. A voiceover returns. Two souls who once changed each other's lives are about to discover that some love stories never truly end. The section closes with a slow-motion shot. Edward walking down a busy New York street, and Vivian stepping out of a cab just around the corner. The camera zooms in on the moment before they cross paths, building tension. The screen cuts to black, leaving the audience waiting for the reunion. Asterisk, the screen fades in on a swirl of gold light. The sound of crystal glasses clinking echoes as we enter a grand ballroom. The camera floats past chandeliers dripping with diamonds of light, elegant gowns sweeping across the marble floor, and tuxedos blending with the hum of violins. This is no ordinary night tits, a charity gala, stage set for fate. A soft voiceover begins. Sometimes the universe brings two people back together. When the timing finally feels right, we cut to Vivian. She walks through the crowd with effortless grace. Her gown a deep crimson that makes her stand out among the muted tones around her. Her hair is pinned elegantly, her smile practiced yet kind. Every step radiating the confidence of a woman who has rebuilt her life. As she greets donors and supporters, she speaks with passion about her foundation. The applause is warm, but when the spotlight moves away, her eyes wander. There's a flicker of longing. There's something even she cannot disguise. At the far end of the hall, Edward enters. He is older, sharper in his suit, but his posture carries the weight of years spent building walls around his heart. He pauses, adjusting his cufflinks, scanning the room with polite detachment. The crowd blurs around him, voices fading into silence, until the camera shifts. A slow-motion reveal. Across the room, Edward sees Vivian. His breath catches. Her laughter reaches him faintly, like an old song returning from the past. He blinks, unsure if it's real. For a moment, the bustling ballroom fades away. It's only her. Vivian senses it too. She turns, almost reluctantly, and her eyes meet his. The room seems to freeze. For a heartbeat, it is 1990 again, the street corners. The penthouse balcony, the smile that once made the world brighter. Her lips part slightly, shock flickering across her face. Edward straightens, his mask slipping. He whispers under his breath, "Vivian." Cut to a flash of their past the limo ride, the opera. The fire escape kiss memories crashing back in vivid fragments. The orchestra swells. Vivian takes a cautious step forward, then stops. Doubt clouds her features. Edward hesitates too, years of unspoken words holding him still. The crowd resumes around them, pulling them apart. Yet their eyes remain locked across the distance. Narration breaks the tension. Time has passed, but some connections never fade. The question is, can they find the courage to bridge the years between them? The scene shifts to snippets. Vivian standing at the balcony of the gala, city lights reflecting in her eyes. Edward approaches slowly, the weight of decades between them. A quiet exchange in the corner of the ballroom. Vivian's voice, soft but steady. "I never thought I'd see you again." Edward's reply, almost a confession, "I never stopped seeing you." The music shifts from orchestral to something intimate, a single piano note echoing in the silence. Their hands nearly touch before she pulls back. Uncertainty flashing cut to Vivian walking away into the night, her gown flowing like a red flame in the darkness. Edward watches, torn between pride and longing. The voiceover returns. Second chances don't come easily, but when they do, they demand everything. The section closes with Edward stepping into the city streets, the camera following his figure as neon lights glow above him. A single line of dialogue lingers, Vivian's whisper, carried like a ghost over the sound of traffic. "What if we're too late?" Black screen. Silence. Then, a single piano note fades into the next act. Asterisk, the screen flickers to life with rain against glass. The sound is soft, rhythmic, and lonely. Edward sits in the back of a town car, the city lights melting into streaks of color through the window. His reflection stares back at him, older, heavier with regrets. He leans back, closing his eyes as the voiceover begins. "Sometimes the hardest battles are not against the world, but against the ghosts we carry within." Got to Vivian in her office, late at night. Papers are spread across her desk, but she isn't working. She sits quietly, holding the necklace Edward gave her all those years ago, fingers tracing its delicate curve. She sighs deeply, as if trying to push the weight of memory away. Outside, the city hums, but inside, the silence is deafening. The music swells low, tense but delicate. The trailer shifts to a series of quick scenes, Edward in a therapist's office, his words halting, his face strained. "I built everything, but when I close my eyes, all I see is her." Vivian walking through the community center, listening to women share their stories of heartbreak and survival. Her gaze drifts out the window, unfocused, her mind far away. Edward dining with old colleagues, their laughter loud, but he is quiet, lost. His hand brushes against the wine glass, trembling slightly. Narration cuts in. Both had built lives. Both had moved forward, but neither had ever truly let go. A dramatic montage follows. Vivian arguing with a close friend, insisting she doesn't need Edward back in her life. "I don't want to go back to that girl I used to be." Edward standing before his company's board, his voice faltering mid-speech, his thoughts elsewhere. A late-night walk for Vivian in Central Park, the city lights glowing behind her. She stops by the fountain, staring into the water, as if searching for answers. The tension rises when their worlds begin to collide again. Edward shows up at the foundation unannounced. The volunteers whisper, curious about the mysterious man in the tailored suit. Vivian meets him in her office, her expression unreadable. Silence stretches between them like a canyon. Finally, she speaks. "Why now, Edward? After all this time?" His reply is fragile, almost broken, "Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what if." The music grows, strings weaving into a melody that is both haunting and hopeful. We see Vivian retreat, unsure. She leans against the door after Edward leaves, closing her eyes as if the past has burst open again. Meanwhile, Edward walks the streets of New York, a man stripped of his armor, his steps heavy but determined. The narrator's voice returns. Softer now, intimate. Love is not just about finding someone. It is about finding the courage to try again. The section builds toward a powerful emotional crescendo. Vivian standing before a mirror, whispering to herself, "People don't change, do they?" Edward on his balcony, staring at the skyline, whispering, "I need one more chance." A montage of fleeting smiles between them, cut short by hesitation. A hand almost reaching, but stopping. A phone call almost made, but not answered. The music suddenly cuts to silence. A single heartbeat echoes. The scene shifts to a rooftop at night. Vivian looks out at the city, the wind catching her hair. Her voice trembles as she says to a confidant, "I don't know if I'm afraid of losing him again, or if I'm afraid of finding him." Black screen. A final whisper of narration. Second chances are not given. They are earned. The section ends with Edward standing outside Vivian's building, looking up at the glowing window where she sits. He takes a deep breath, as if ready to climb mountains, as if ready to risk everything. The screen fades to black, leaving the tension unresolved. Asterisk, the screen opens in silence. Just the sound of a steady heartbeat. Then suddenly, the city skyline at dawn. Golden light floods the skyscrapers. A new day breaking over New York. The camera glides across the streets. Past cafes opening, taxis honking, and pedestrians beginning their morning rush. In the midst of all this, two people move through the same city, aware they are being pulled closer to their final decision. A soft voiceover begins when the past knocks at your door. Will you answer or walk away forever? Cut to Edward. He stands outside Vivian's foundation once again, but this time there's no hesitation. His suit is simpler, his face stripped of pride. He carries nothing but resolve. His reflection in the glass doors shows a man willing to be vulnerable, perhaps for the first time in his life. He pushes the door open. Inside, Vivian is addressing a group of women, her voice passionate. She notices him in the back. Her words falter for a second, but she continues. The women applaud as she finishes, but her gaze stays locked on him. Their eyes meet steady, unflinching. As if the noise of the room has disappeared, the music swells, not orchestral now, but intimata, single guitar strumming a hopeful tune, cut to a quiet scene on the foundation's rooftop. The city hums below them. Edward and Vivian stand apart at first, a gulf of years and choices stretching between them. Then, slowly Edward speaks, "I spent my life building walls, and I don't want them anymore." Vivian studies him. Her defense is rising, but softening too. "People don't change, Edward. They say who they are." He steps closer. Maybe they don't change? Maybe they finally learn what matters. The music builds, strings joining the guitar, rising with emotion. Quick flashes follow. Edward and Vivian walking through Central Park, hesitant at first, then laughing like old times. Vivian standing at her mirror, removing the necklace, setting it down, and then smiling at her own reflection as if she's ready for a new chapter. Edward watching her from a distance, the pride in his eyes unhidden. The narrator returns. Second chances don't erase the past. They make the future possible. The trailer cuts to its most dramatic montage yet. Edward and Vivian dancing at the gala's empty ballroom late at night. Just the two of them. A kiss almost happening but interrupted by hesitation. Edward running through rain to stop Vivian from leaving in a cab. Vivian crying, whispering, "I don't know if I can do this again." Edward holding her hand, firm and unshaken, "Then let me prove it." Every day, the score swells into a full orchestral explosion, hopeful and grand. Finally, the screen slows to one last intimate moment. Edward and Vivian, standing on the balcony, overlooking the city. She looks at him with cautious hope. He looks at her with certainty. Vivian's final line, soft but strong. Maybe fairy tales don't end. Maybe they just find a second chapter. Screen cuts to black. Big title card fades in. Pretty Woman, Second Chances coming 2025, starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere last. Whisper of the iconic piano theme plays, lingering like a promise. Fade out.